some water because I forgot tomorrow.
I'd like to reconvene open session. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent meditation?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The card. Okay. I recommend that minutes relating to the privacy of students and their records, approval of home instruction requests remain sealed.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Ms. Luzon, a second by Mr. Callahan, that the minutes relating to the privacy of students' records remain sealed. Those in favor? Okay, number 2. I recommend that minutes pertaining to the litigation legal update, the Robinson Green Beretta Corporation versus Charahoe Regional School District, through its chair, Linda Lyle, CA number PC 2021-06474, remain sealed.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Ms. Luzon, a second by Mr. Callahan, that the minutes pertaining to litigation legal update, Robinson Green Beretta Corporation versus Charahoe Regional School District, through its chair, Linda Lyle, remain sealed. Those in favor? Okay, that's all except number 3. I recommend that minutes pertaining to collective bargaining, NEA ESP negotiation update, remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached.
So moved.
Second. There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Ms. Giusti, that the minutes pertaining to collective bargaining, NEA ESP negotiation update, remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached. Those in favor? Okay, abstaining, recusal. We got one abstain, one recusal. Okay. Okay. I recommend that minutes pertaining to collective bargaining, NEA certified staff negotiation update, remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached.
So moved.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Ms. Giusti, that the minutes pertaining to collective bargaining, NEA certified staff negotiation update, remain sealed until such a time as an agreement has been reached. Those in favor? Okay. Any nays? Abstentions? Recusals?
So what did
Recusal, and
Bill
abstain. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Giusti, would you disclose our executive session votes, please?
Sure. The first vote was to change the agenda for executive session, moving number 4 before number 3. In favor of Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, McQuaid, Reynolds, and Spears. The next vote was executive session minutes of September 13th, 2022, home instruction requests and rescission, is that a word? Rescinding. Approved by Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, McQuaid, Reynolds, and Spears. The next vote was home instruction requests for this evening, approved by Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, McQuaid, Reynolds, and Spears. The next vote was an RGB update. In favor of Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, McQuaid, Reynolds, and Spears. The next executive session minutes, September 13th, 2022, NEA certified staff negotiation update. Approved by Callahan, Chambers, Juicy, Liguori, Lyle, Reynolds, and Spears. Abstained, Day. And the final vote was to return to executive session. I'm sorry, open session. Approved by Callahan, Chambers, Juicy, Liguori, Lyle, Reynolds, and Spears.
Thank you, Ms. Juicy. I guess recognition. Okay.
High school girls soccer team, the 2022 Matty Potts Jamboree Tournament champions, and 2022, is it Piver?
Piver? Piper.
Piver.
Okay.
Piver Cup champions. Congratulations.
Yay.
to the soccer team.
Okay. We are in the we're in public forum, so anyone in the audience who wishes to come up and speak on anything that's not on the agenda may do so. I see Mr. McQuaid is going to speak. Yes, Mr. McQuaid. Introduce yourself,
McQuaid,
please. Say where you're from.
Charlestown, Rhode Island. So we received a communication from the superintendent immediately prior to the, or not immediately, but near prior to the meeting, that the town of Hopkinton regretted to inform us that effective immediately, their public works department is no longer capable of providing snow removal services for the Ashway or Hope Valley elementary schools. And while I have a lot of thoughts about that, for the purposes of public comment and following watching the that segment of the meeting itself at their September 19th meeting, I want to publicly thank Vice President of the Town Council, Sharon Davis. I was really pleased and appreciated her comments during that conversation, which really promoted communication with the school department, and also just acknowledged that there's a budgeting process and that this would have an impact on the budgeting process. I did want to also, just clarify a few things. There was an insinuation that Richmond, the town of Richmond, does not currently plow the elementary school, and it's my understanding that in fact they do.
They do plow.
And Vice President Sharon Davis's comment around promoting communication, there was sort of this suggestion that this was from their public works department, that this was a long time coming. And so to the extent that this was a long time coming, perhaps we could have been planful in its implementation. And so again, there was also a bit of an insinuation that that Cherahoe has both the equipment and the manpower, but chooses not to. I don't believe that that is the case. And so, to the extent that, if Cherahoe is going to be on a Charlestown, Richmond, or Hopkinton Town Council agenda, I don't think that it's inappropriate for our sister towns to communicate that to us, so that things that are insinuated at the meetings, we could clarify and operate with the facts and information. And so again, I want to thank Sharon for that. And I'm making it a point to thank Sharon because Town Councilor Scott Billhurst made it a point to note that he looked forward and delighted in the fact that this would be something for Cherahoe to complain about Hopkinton about. The fact of the matter is, I never look forward to any issues of contention with any of our towns. And so rather than delighting in doing something that, from, I guess, his point of view, will frustrate us, I'd rather just thank and promote the comments that Sharon shared around promoting good communication and just being mindful of budgeting processes. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McQuaid. Anybody else? No? Okay. Then we move on to business. Thank you.
So item A is the Perkins Grant. You did vote on this last 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And the backup documentation was inadvertently, the last meeting was actually the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Grants, which is on the agenda tonight. So just to make sure this was a clean process, we placed the Perkins Grant in your packet this evening, and I recommend approval to submit the Perkins Grant, which Director Auth spoke about last meeting.
So, second.
It's been a motion and a second to approve the Perkins Grant. I guess to submit the Perkins Grant. Any discussion on that? Any questions? No? Okay, those in favor? Any nays, abstentions, or recusals? Nope, that was unanimous. Thank you.
Item B is the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Grant. I recommend approval to submit this grant to provide the McKinney-Vento Assistance Liaison stipends, one elementary position and one secondary position, identification and awareness professional development for staff, emergency transportation funds, and necessary supplies for McKinney-Vento families. Dr. Camilla can answer any questions that you may have.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. I open this up to discussion.
Michael,
Yes, guys, too.
can you elaborate to me what they're implying here with emergency transportation?
We get students from out of district who are placed here and they're considered homeless. So we'll work with the district that they could potentially be placed in, but they're here in one of our towns. We'll work with them to provide transportation.
And also the reverse. So, for example, if under the McKinney-Vento Act, if a child has to move in with family in Johnston and wants to remain here at school, that law allows them to. Therefore, we usually work with the neighboring town, Ned, correct, to try to pay half.
So you just confused me. Ride places them here, or they
No,
were
the-
here
the
and then
law-
they moved.
Right. So it typically is they were coming to our schools.
Okay.
And that could be the reverse. They, for example, let's say there's a homeless family that was from Johnson and the grandmother lives in Richmond. So they want them then to come to Charahoe schools. It can work that way, but the transportation can go either direction depending on where the family member of the family is that they're living with.
So if they move out of district, how long are they allowed to continue?
There's no time limit. The law does not allow for a time
And
limit.
is $4,177.50 going to be enough?
Well, it's something that
emergency
this is the first
transportation?
grant we have. So typically we have to budget.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's adding.
This is part of our budget.
And we've done it in terms of gas.
We were-
cards,
you were-
too. We've done a number
Yeah.
of ways to provide families with emergency funding. So we've done gas cards, if they
Mileage.
decide to do
So
the
we've done this in the
transportation.
past. We've just never,
Had
I
a
just
grant
don't
to
recall
help
ever
support
seeing
it.
this before.
Correct. Then if you want to talk about some of the ways we
Yes. So what will happen is somebody unexpectedly loses their housing. In some cases, we've had them actually, families end up in Connecticut because we're fairly close to the border. It becomes a little troublesome to figure out some of those transportation things where we will split a cost with a district. But in some cases, as Dr. Camilla mentioned, you can have gas cards. So you talk to the family, say, is there somebody available who can bring the student to our school? They say yes. We say, okay, we'll get you a gas card and try to make this work for you.
So what confuses me then, if a family moves to, like you said,
not
Johnston,
moves, they're
homeless.
they're displaced.
Okay.
Emergency, yeah.
but they're there for more than a year or so.
Some can be, yes,
Why wouldn't that new host community be responsible now?
because under the law, that the family gets to determine what's best for themselves at that moment. The law does not provide limits, nor does it say we can force them into one district or the other.
Okay, thank
This
you.
is legislated. This is not RIDE. This is legislature.
And to follow on with that, with the transportation issue, typical thinking is about an hour. And that's where you get into limits. Where is it really practical for a student to be on transportation for over an hour? But if it's within an hour, typically they'll stick with the district they're from.
I think the key, they're trying to, I mean, if a family becomes homeless, it's so much, it's tragic and it's hard on the kids. So if you can keep something in their lives.
And I understand that. I'm just looking long term, the impact that our government, state of Rhode Island and even RIDE, because they're going to enforce this. It's how much of an impact they're putting on local LEAs and their budgets. So I'm just curious because I know this isn't going to be enough per se. This is just a grant. This is
Correct. Typically, this would be part of our budget. It always is. It's already part of our budget. We have to, and
It's federally mandated,
I can
so
tell
we have
you-
to set aside.
over the summer, I think we received almost 6 to 7 within a 3-week period of students who were placed in DCYF and or homeless. It was
so I'm glad the public's
Unexpected.
at least hearing about this because not many, I haven't heard this
Right.
in
You know,
all these
it's like a
years.
snowstorm. You can't predict how many or how it's going
Right.
to impact.
So, okay, so Michael, the $5,000 is for 2 position stipends,
Yes.
right? Okay, that's how I understand it. Why elementary and secondary?
Because right now we have our numbers of just looking at our numbers in general, it's a little bit higher at the secondary level right now, but it could as superintendent said, it could fluctuate at any time. So what we want to have is a touch point at each level, just because the needs of the students, families could be different, based on age. But we really want, because right now we handle it all, and what we've seen over the past year is that those numbers have increased, and so we get a lot of calls. Nancy Perney, my administrative assistant, is constantly working with families to get them, whether it's transportation or getting them with a community center or tying them to some kind of support. We feel it's probably best done at the schools, where this, the staff know them best, and to also educate, around the law, educate around like what ways we can help families.
The
But
last update we gave you in August, we had around 13 families.
We're up to 16 now.
Okay, wow, and it's probably going to increase, I'm
That's,
sure,
that's what we're
with the
anticipating.
conditions in the
Yeah,
economy.
and I've had a conversation with the Johnny Cake Center, said that they've seen a number of increase of families needing supports.
But my question was really, why not the middle school too? Are 2
No,
positions-
secondary. It's both.
Is both
Okay,
middle and high.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right, thank you. Thank you.
We have any more questions?
No.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second to approve this assistance grant. Those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
So item C is enrollment, tuition, and budget picture to date. This item was requested by Andrew McQuaid at our last meeting. Ned submitted a memo to myself that I submitted to all of you as an FYI in the September 13th packet. And we provided options we're going to consider. I can tell you as of today, we are moving forward at the end of this week with the budget freeze, unless it's an emergency fund or justification in part of the budget. Because right now, the picture, as we can tell you, we keep getting unexpected things happening. Mr. McQuaid spoke about one of them, and that has impacts on our budget. So we have to be mindful of those impacts so we can do the best to stay within our budget.
So,
Yes.
so I just want to say we're still in September and we have a budget freeze.
Yes.
So I hope that we can get through the year. And I hope that the public is very aware of the constraints that we have been made to work with on this particular budget. So anyway.
Yeah, like I said, definitely the increase of DCYF placements,
Yeah.
the transportation costs that come with that, along with unexpected, definitely has put us in a tight situation.
Well, can I just continue a little bit here? The other thing that I noticed that you have a decline in the enrollment for the Career and Tech Center. So I'm questioning.
Yeah.
No,
Not necessarily.
okay.
So there was a sort of a clarification we need to have with Director Auth and with finance. So what happened was as you know, we budget early, so we have to have, because of the way we have to do the vote. So in
Okay.
December, we have let's say 175 CTC students.
Okay.
With the attrition by the end of the year, some graduate. So when they come in at about 158, our programs look pretty much exactly like they always have. So what we've put in place now is I've asked Director Auth to maintain quarterly updates with the finance director, so we can ensure that if kids are moving in and out of programs, graduation, etc., that we keep close eye on enrollment and shift the budget as necessary.
Okay. But there is a potential for not having as much income in that area.
Correct. Basically, there was one additional student, I want to say maybe per town, that was unanticipated. So typically, we have a number that we anticipate that will leave the district. Let's say Wesley was 2, it was 3. Narragansett was 2, it was 3. North Kingstown was 3, it was 4. So, and again, we don't know necessarily how that pans out because they have to be accepted into programs.
When she's done.
I know.
Well, I just also want to point out that the fuel oil went up from what we anticipated it to
Correct.
be. And so we almost kind of knew that at the budget time that we were going to have an increase in heating our school using the consumption of fuel oil. So I just want to point that out. That's all. Anyway. All right, done.
Susan.
I remember Ned presenting to us temperatures in schools where having it at a certain temperature is conducive for learning. But we're thinking of dropping it to 65 degrees.
So Mr. Draper put that in his memo. I'm not there yet. I told Jason Sullivan and Ned Draper before we do any of that, I would like to be in a room at 65 degrees for quite a deal amount of time before I decide that. So that's not on the top of my list, but I can appreciate and understand that the finance director is looking for opportunity. I will. Trust me.
Okay, Mr. McQuay.
Yes, thank you, Chair, for putting this on the agenda, and Ned, thank you for preparing this memo for the superintendent. Really wanting to just have this exact conversation. It came into our packet as an FYI, and candidly, we know votes have consequences, and budget votes have consequences as well. And I think the public deserve and have the right to know what the impact of that budget vote has very practically on the district. Likewise, I received a communication recommending that elementary school students bring jackets and sweatshirts to school. I'd like to think that we're better than that. But you spoke to the budget freeze, and I suppose that there would be some folks who would say, yeah, may celebrate that Cheraho's in a budget freeze. But can you kind of just speak to practically, or if we could get in the weeds a little bit about what is a budget freeze and how does it impact students and educators?
You want?
Sure. So the first level, if you will, is there are times throughout the budget that you'll say, okay, I might do things a little different than we had planned originally last year. So I figured I was going to use 500 reams of copy paper. I actually get to December or January, I'm only going to use 300. So maybe I'll use that money for some furniture I was meaning to buy or some other things. Well, once you enact a freeze, that means unless it's exactly what you had planned, we don't plan to buy it. Unless it's a health or safety issue, we don't plan to buy it. Initially, we'll check inventories. We'll see, how much paper is there. So if we get a requisition for paper and we're told it's necessary, we'll do another check and say, are you sure all the inventory is gone? If it is, then we'll get things. It is a little further complicated in this current environment because of supply chain. So there are things like a good example would be we had a conversation today about ice melt. Yes, we should purchase ice melt, even if we drift into the freeze. Ironically, we drift into the budget freeze time period. I would rather be ahead of time on a health and safety item than behind the 8 ball and realize we just can't get it. We waited too long. So those are the kinds of decisions we're going to make as requisitions come across the table. But generally speaking, it's going to be health and safety. Obviously, we're going to continue to do maintenance. We're going to continue to do those routine things that are required to keep the schools safe, comfortable, and still delivering program.
So can I ask on top of that question? And okay, Ned, you missed the perfect thing. You're buying the ice melt to get rid of the budget freeze. I mean, you can't not say that. Anyway, now I forgot my question. So what about personnel? Where does I mean, from a public standpoint, I see this and I think, does that mean we're not going to hire anyone if there's a vacancy? How does it fit into personnel?
So in the memo, I had put one of the options is a prioritized vacancy freeze. Right now, we have essential positions where we're too short-staffed. Some of those examples includes clerks, custodial, and those would fall under the health and safety category because those positions are essential for your routine daily operations to keep the buildings clean, keep students safe. So we would have to talk to the superintendent about, okay, as vacancies come up, can't. So that's another opportunity.
Mr. Day.
So if I'm understanding you with your analogy with the paper, before you went out to buy any more paper, you would determine throughout the other schools in the district that they didn't have an excess of paper in their facilities that you didn't know about.
Yeah, when we get new requisitions, we'd say, okay, are you wiped out? yes, I'm wiped out. Okay.
Yeah, we've done that even with
But-
furniture. Some schools
but
needed so chairs. We found
You,
that.
you check. I mean, you're saying you wiped out, but some of these school buildings have their own little.
I understood, but
If you know where it is, let us
I-
know.
I would,
We pretty much tried to find them.
Well, I'm just saying that in the past, and I'm not all right. Maybe I stand corrected. In the past, some of these facilities treat once they get it, they hug it, and hang on to it forever. And we might be buying something that is in excess in one building and a negative in another building. And I just want to have assurances that all avenues have been explored to make sure that we don't have an excess someplace else that you don't know about.
yeah, that's a fair challenge. But I would carefully answer the question with, we wouldn't get down to like the REMA paper.
No, but
We-
I'm talking about.
You understand?
I'm
We'd be
talking about
practical.
school desks and things like that. We need to replace. I've been in a couple of buildings there where there's a lot of school desks sitting around.
And that's why there's not a furniture in this budget.
And,
We've
and
been
I'm
doing
just,
that.
but this, I can come up with a
Yeah.
few more examples, but we can be here all night doing this. I'm just stating that I just hope that we're the best of your ability and Jason's ability and everybody else's ability, that we're not overlooking something in a building that could be utilized someplace else.
Well, one of the things we've done, I mean, obviously, you know, when I came in, COVID was present and supplies were very much, even shipping in for supplies was difficult. So what we've done to even the last 2 years budgets that I've been here is really think through the algorithm for the supplies, how much is in the building, and really working with the principals to understand their budget at a level that it gets down to inventory, where I want to match. I want to know, I should not see budgets that say every year it's the same items. It should be very specific. So I thought last year's budget was a lot tighter because we all, you know, believed COVID was on its way out. We went in endemic stage, so we could think through it a little better. Although that was the hope, we felt that. But we became tighter around the supplies. You know, we understand that everyone has sort of even a wish list, but I go through every budget, as does Ned, with me. I sit with every principal. I ask all the questions, and then make the determinations after the overall budget. And you know, you saw on last year's budget the furniture items. You know, I removed unless I saw the furniture myself and said, "Show me what's out of life." And you know, sometimes what I think is out of life, somebody else is, it's not. So we did a lot of shifting of desks and chairs and things like that. But we're looking in the hiding places.
So
And then to be fair, the principals really are being mindful of that as well.
and I would extend to that to Mr. Day's question. The other thing we need to look at too is how much is typical use for the year for a school. And I want to be clear about this so that there's not a feeling that we're missing something. So for instance, if let's say the high school looks like they have 3 months worth of paper left, 4 months worth of paper left, we would say, okay, you wait to order because you've got time. If somebody looks like they've got right amount of paper to get through the year, we wouldn't take from them to fulfill a need and then have to worry about replenishing it later. And I know you understand, but I just want everybody to understand it means that we would try to have them the right amount for the year and not do double work by moving things around within the district just to be just in time. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Chambers, Mr. Luzon,
Yeah,
and then Ms. McCray.
I have a lot of questions about these options to consider. But I'm going back to what Gary was asking you about the vacancy freeze, because that hit me right away. Does that mean if we lose 3 elementary teachers because they move out of the district, that we would not replace them?
No, they would be
Okay.
essential.
They would be essential. Same with if someone went off on maternity leave, we would still get the sub. So it's not like we're going to leave these. They're not. If a position gets vacated, we will have to replace.
Right. If
certain
we have
people.
students on a schedule with teachers, I need a teacher in front of them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So in the next, I mean, I could go down the list with questions on all of these. What is the wellness programs for health long term? What would that mean in terms of cutting that back?
Oh, no, we wouldn't cut that. That would be an opportunity to reduce costs, is to
Okay.
look at opportunities within our healthcare program. We have the
Yeah.
Smart Shopper program,
This is
for instance. So there's an enticement for an employee to choose a provider that's the most efficient.
Okay.
There's also a financial incentive tied in with that. So it's those kinds of program options that over time can help improve
And
our
reminding our
situation.
employees, about those opportunities.
So the options to consider list that you put together are opportunities for the district to look at these expenses as possible considerations of cutting back. Is that,
Well, it could be
is that on my-
cutting back or doing, like in the case of healthcare, that might be doing things a little differently.
Okay.
Really
okay.
enhancing,
So this
that
is not necessarily to eliminate, but to economize on these things. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Ned.
well said.
Ms. Luzon and then Mr. McQueen.
All right, so before I go on to what I really wanted to ask, go back to the vacancy freeze real quick. So give us some examples where you'd freeze something.
Teacher assistants that are not attached to special education students.
Oh,
And that's it.
Right now, that's pretty much the one that we have that I'm not filling at this point.
Okay.
And now, to be honest, we haven't been able to get people to even apply for those positions. And when we've had one or two apply, they've turned the job down because other districts are paying more.
That's been a problem with a lot of the positions we have, huh?
At the beginning level, yes.
Yes. So my question is
Yes.
going, K appears to be down 25 students, cause to be determined. If I recall from the last meeting, we were up a little bit here, up a little bit there. So what do you mean by down by 25
So,
students?
for example, if you recall, one of my suggestions for the budget was to cut back on a Charlestown kindergarten, which we didn't, but that enrollment remained low. So we really should. I will be going back to 2 kindergartens at Charlestown. My recommendation to the committee will be moving back to 2 kindergartens at Charlestown for the next school year. But in essence, that number came much lower than the previous 2 years, where the other schools maintained, their
Right.
trend. Hope Valley actually was the one that increased the most. It went up 6 than expected, where Charleston came down. And really, you can have 2 classes there.
Well, just a little bit of tidbit. Charleston's population has dropped at least 40% in the last 20 years. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
So some of the cleanup too. So we'll have a better picture after the October 1 Tri-Town count is, as you know, we have homeschool students, but some of them take classes. Therefore, that tuition will be accounted for. We have CTC students that are coming in. So we're doing the cleanup now. And once we have that, we'll have a better picture of what that enrollment shift looks like.
Thank you.
Ms. McQueen?
For our pre-K numbers, just to be clear.
Yeah,
I'm
Gary
sorry.
had a
I just
follow-up.
wanted to follow. So when you answered Craig's question about the vacancy, just to be clear, it sounds like you're not filling current vacant positions.
Current
as
teacher
opposed.
assistant
Okay.
regular positions. Yeah.
Just want to be clear.
I wanted to clarify. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Thanks.
About the enrollment. Was it
Oh,
enrollment?
pre-K enrollment is actually, so our pre-K enrollment has bumped. And I asked Dorothy to check if it was from Charlestown just to make sure for next year. But we actually may need to open a pre-K classroom based on the numbers,
Wow.
which is another unexpected. It came in. We've already added. If you remember, I added
They
the
can
point.
come in anytime they turn 3.
I added the an additional pre-K position last year because we anticipated the increase. We did not, and it's much larger than expected. So right now, Jen Durkin is working on whether or not if we can move some around or if we need to open up a classroom.
Which, one
Wait,
quick
you
question.
guys are looking.
Going back to my question on the vacancy freeze. Is there judgment utilized there, or you're just stating it if a TA?
No, it's judgment. I talk with the
Because
administrator.
there are some
Jen Durkin.
classes where you really probably don't want to eliminate a TA.
I'm not eliminating it.
No.
They've
but
been working
They've
with us.
eliminated
Right.
themselves, but you're not going to fill it.
If you remember, we cut a teacher assistant position last year at the middle school that was unfilled for the whole year.
Mr. McQuaid and then Mr. Day, you had your hand raised.
And just to clarify, so you referenced the increase in pre-K. Oftentimes, that does have a downstream effect in terms of special education,
Correct.
and so in special education costs. So in terms of projecting future budgetary costs, it's important.
Right,
It's an
and
important
just-
data point.
It's not these are not tuition students. These are students who come in with special needs and have specific accommodations that we are required by law to educate. at 3.
At 3.
I also just wanted to highlight, well, well, the paper conversation was compelling. I also want to highlight the fact that, we that is the level of conversation that is occurring on a district-wide basis.
Building.
On a building basis and a district-wide basis, that is the sort of the level of granularity. I know it's super in the weeds, but I think it's actually beneficial for folks to be aware of. That is the level of granularity that we are working at and that we're operating to find every efficiency possible within the budget. And again, part of why I just wanted to sort of elevate this conversation to the committee level, so that whomever can be aware of the ongoing activities, that this isn't something that begins and ends with a budget proposal in January, but that truly, as of the start of the school year, we were already operating in a place that we are now implementing a budget freeze, that does have an impact on education, and that it's not that we're twiddling our thumbs related to what to do about this, but looking at everything, including paper supplies and whether or not to buy ice melt now versus in a month or two.
Mr. Day and then Mr. Callahan. Mr. Day, what?
Yes. Don't always agree with Gina on all the subjects we have here, but looking at this list, I feel this is why we hired her. She recommended that we have Mike here, we have Ned here, and as much as I have some concerns about this, we can't micromanage how she manages district. If we have serious concerns about how she's managing or mismanaging in our minds, then we should be looking for another new superintendent. But right now, I'm not uncomfortable with the way she's managing the district along with her team, and I would wholeheartedly endorse and give her a vote of confidence and to continue to keep this district moving forward. And we're not always going to agree on everything, but you're right. As far as I'm concerned, you're right on with what you proposed here, and I support it 100%.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Mr. Callahan, you had your.
Thanks. A couple of quick questions. So, looks like it's about an $800,000 impact, right, Ned? Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to be sure I was on that number. The pre-K students, about 25 students more than expected. What towns are those from? Those kids from? Predominantly.
Predominantly Hope Valley and Richmond.
Hope Valley and Richmond. And the 25 students down predominantly in Charlestown.
Okay.
And the 74 students down in the high school, what towns?
I'd have to double check that because sometimes they're out of district too. Like
Right.
they decided to go back to their districts. It's not necessarily
Okay.
all our towns.
And the reason I am asking this questions, and it's more for the committee, is the ratio of students from the towns has a very large impact on what's going to come up in a few months. So, just for my own edification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're definitely seeing the Hope an increase in our Hope Valley.
Right, and that's what I understood it to be too. And I also think you're doing a fantastic job, Gina.
Can I add something on supplies?
Uh-oh.
She's gonna be
We
fresh.
had a business that went out that called us, and we made lots of personal car trips and picked up the files, picked up furniture, picked up staplers, everything they were doing away with. And that's in our basement. So whenever a school orders something, that's where the supplies come from before anything is ordered outside. So I think we all have realized that a lot of money can be saved. And this company called and said, it was all brand new. Do you want this? We took it all. So yeah, it's down in our basement, and that's where we fill the orders before we go out to order.
And in middle school, you'll see it in your next packet. Donation from the middle school, almost brand new chairs it was from a spouse member from another committee. They were closing offices and they sent the furniture over. So we are, and we have Katie working very hard as always for grant development. We are just looking forward right now for a grant to support our mental health student services, because as you know, it's an area I'm not willing to cut back on. I think it's too important. So that will offer us, and you'll see it in your next agenda. It's 300,000 for the next 4 years. So it's $1.2 million that we'll get in the grant funding. And Ride's already told us that we would be approved if we applied.
Only because Katie wrote it.
She hasn't written it yet. But
Katie wrote it.
we were eligible. They said they've been very impressed with the
Sure.
work that they've seen, and they believe it would be an excellent support.
Please come to the mic.
Hi, Betsy Alvarez, Hopkinton resident. I have two questions, so I'm actually happy I came tonight. So one regarding like with the freeze and with our custodial staff now having to clean Hopkinton and Hope Valley schools. Do we know the impact when we think about snow days? That I know that our custodians do an amazing job to get our schools clean. Do we know the impact that may have on potential cleanup?
Yes. So
that's one of my questions.
Yes, that's something we're always thinking about. One, we're not freezing so we're still looking for
Yeah.
the custodian positions and maintenance. That's an essential. We're not looking to cut that. We just unfortunately can't find people to take those positions at the beginning rate. So I'm hoping we can make some changes there. But yes, so Jason Sullivan, along with myself and Ned, will review. And honestly, we call them in early to make sure. And again, people can get sick, so we monitor that situation very clearly. The rules for distance learning are a little different. So the plan needs to be very extensive. So we are getting ready to start that. I think other districts are moving in just calling a snow day simply because right now the level of ask from RIDE to be able to do distance learning. So we're gonna put a plan together. If we get rejected, we do. But so there may not even be opportunities depending on, because it now has to go from approval to the Board of Regents, not just the school.
So
committee.
more just like cleanup now that's on the docket for our custodians.
Yeah.
That's another layer that we have to. Okay. So I'm
especially on the outside, because typically what would happen is we have the services for the main campus. We take care of the main campus, and the towns are taking care of their individual schools. And then typically, we still review them, making sure that, when I come up, I'm checking all the schools prior to them opening. And sometimes, we have to do a little bit more cleanup here and there, a little extra on the sidewalks. We do the sidewalks and the exterior, the direct exterior. They do the major walkways out front, and then the road in front and the parking lots. But it's more manpower, so we will definitely have to go request proposals to be able to get a vendor to be able to do that.
okay. And then my second question is, do we have numbers at what schools the teaching assistant positions that potentially going to be maybe frozen? Like at what?
Well, right now they're the positions that are not filled.
So
So
do we
right,
like
but,
I don't
it's there's a couple of at Richmond, and I want to say one at Ashaway, but I'm not positive. There may be
Okay.
3.
So whatever's on the website would potentially if it's-
Correct.
Okay. I was just curious on that. Thank you.
I did have, just a resource comment, because we're still digesting what the impact is going to be absorbing plowing at the Hopkinton schools. And Salvarez's question raises a good point with our custodial resources. I think everybody's aware that the Charahoe campus, the central campus, is also the emergency shelter for the area. So if we do get into a situation where, we have to figure out where we direct resources, we would obviously in a heavy blizzard focus our resources here on the campus, because it would also be expected that we'd be available for an emergency shelter. So it's just things we're going to have to keep an eye on depending on how things shake out.
And honestly, to your point, Craig, and actually when Betsy mentioned it, if there was a situation in a classroom where we needed the assistant, based on review, I'm monitoring non-academic RTI plans, things like that, we would change that direction.
I just asked the question because of my vast experience with some of your employees, and sometimes these classes need that. You can't afford to lose a body.
Right. And I think I told you, right now we're doing a really good job with subs, but as the year progresses and positions and you have more leaves, they tend to shift out. So when spring comes, it's a little tighter, and then people get really tired because there's a lot of coverages. So we, try to minimize as much as we can. So those things you can't predict.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. McQuaid, for having this request. I'm sure we'll be talking about this again.
Yes.
So
So item D is school committee, subcommittee discussion and action. Chair Lyle has provided her recommendations based on the discussion held at the August 9th, 2022 meeting on those committees and subcommittees that are in need of additional members, could be added or eliminated. I am in agreement with Chair Lyle's recommendations. Please review the recommended changes and vote on each one separately.
So you had a chance to probably look at your packet. Does anyone, I mean, I could go through, I met with Donna, I met with Superintendent Picard. I met with a number of different people to try to figure out the history of some of these subcommittees. So you have a question before I?
In terms of motions, do we need a motion to eliminate these, or can we sort of eliminate?
I think these were established by a school committee, so
Okay.
I believe we need the
Thank you.
motion to eliminate.
So
them.
maybe if we want to start with elimination, so I'll make a motion to eliminate the CTC Advisory Committee, the Marketing Subcommittee, and the Recognition Subcommittee.
Go back to just the one, because it specifies that.
Just in case anybody needs to.
One at a
Just
time.
do the CTC.
Oh, just do one
Yeah,
by
just
one.
do CTC
I
and
see.
then we can. right,
Okay, so
and then we can-
motion to just
And you
motion
seconded
to
it,
eliminate the CTC Advisory Committee.
Oh, I thought. Okay, thought it was.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Why? I met with Director Oth. You know, he, I guess in the past was a committee for the Perkins Grant, but that is not. is
I
not-
think it was, and to promote the just to market.
No, that's the marketing subcommittee that.
Oh, I'm
they put
sorry, the
together.
audit. Okay.
CTC, according to what I understand and what we looked at, was for specifically the Perkins Grant.
Okay.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second to eliminate. Those in favor? Thank you.
Make a motion to eliminate the Marketing Subcommittee.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. McQuaid and a second by Mr. Luzon to eliminate the marketing subcommittee. Any questions on that? Never really met. When did you say it met in 2000 something? Yeah, 2017 or something like that. So it wasn't really those in favor? Great. That's unanimous.
Make a motion to eliminate the Recognition Subcommittee.
There's been a motion by Mr. McQuaid and a second by Mr. Liguori, right? To eliminate the recognition subcommittee. Superintendent Picard, we had talked about that, like it's more about keeping it in-house, like.
But we're doing that already, where administrators and teachers can nominate employees of the month. We have other student recognitions, right?
We're gonna go back to that.
I had two so far.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're
okay.
going back.
As long as we go back to,
Yeah.
and that was kind of nice every month.
Yeah, I think with COVID, everyone sort of, but we, some admin still did it. And I delivered them, right? Donna packaged them and I delivered them, even in COVID.
Oh, we want to hear about it at these.
No, you did. You heard about them.
Yeah, we have the recognition. Donna, you had your hand.
No, I was just going to say, you're saying that you're doing it internally, and that's a good recommendation because it got pretty awkward after a while. So anyway, that's good.
And I talked to the administrators about that too. They felt the same thing. It seemed
Yeah,
a little bit
yeah.
more seamless if we did it in-house.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, those in favor of eliminating recognition subcommittee? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
You gonna do the next page?
Yeah, Chair, would you prefer to deal with vacancies first or
Well,
the
I
additions
thought, I mean,
first?
what I would recommend, I guess we can talk about it. I don't know if you want to wait till we have a new committee. We might have some new committee members and we might want to wait to fill it at that point, Mr. Kelly.
Sure. I think with the need to add on NEA certified and NEA ESP, I'd like to definitely find alternates to support that, those ongoing negotiations. But unless the administration needs people immediately for policy and district strategic planning,
So I would need them for district strategic planning because we met with Ryan on Thursday. So they asked us to have that started so that we can begin meeting. And potentially the first meeting would be October.
okay.
Yeah, I agree with you on that though too.
Yeah. Otherwise, I just recommend we kind of leave the policy subcommittee until a new committee is seated, and then let's get the ball rolling on the strategic planning.
Okay.
Cool.
Good. Sounds good to me.
So, who wanted to join certified staff? I think
Yes.
everybody did.
No, we're gonna
It's
add.
all two alternates for NEA certified
We only
staff.
got one, Mr. Lagori.
Make a motion to add Mr. Gregori to NEA certified staff
Second.
negotiation subcommittee.
Yeah, you did.
No, I was
Oh,
ESP. I'm
That's
already
right,
on
you're
it.
already there. I'm so confused. All right, yes.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to add Mr. Luzon, to add Gary Lagori to the NEA certified staff negotiation as a alternate. Thank you, Mr. Lagori.
Right.
Any discussion on that? Nope. Those in favor? Thank you. Yep. Are you abstaining?
Oh,
You vote for yourself. So that was unanimous. Thank you. And do you want to do the next one, Ryan, for the
NEA certified staff.
NEA ESP negotiation? Do you wanna
Oh,
add-
yeah. I'd like to nominate, I make a motion
Yeah.
to add Karen Reynolds to NEA ESP negotiation subcommittee.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to add Karen as an alternate to the NEA ESP negotiation subcommittee. I don't think there'll be any discussion on that. Those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much, Karen. Did you want me?
No,
I thought we had one.
Do you want?
I
Do you want to
apologize.
put? Do you want to? I don't have to be.
Linda,
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready for that one?
Yes.
Make a motion to add Linda Lyle to NEA ESP negotiation subcommittee.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second to add Linda Lyle to the NEA ESP negotiation subcommittee. Any discussion on that one? No. Okay. Those in favor? Okay, I'm going to vote for myself. Yeah, it's unanimous. Okay. So at this point, we need to ask for 2 volunteers or liaisons to the district strategic planning. This is not a committee. This is just 2 people to serve as representatives from the school committee, similar to how we have.
Yeah, there's a new process through RIDE, so they basically let us know when they need certain stakeholders at the table for specific pieces per the legislation.
Right. And then what would be the responsibility? Like there's so many meetings a year.
So my understanding is there'd be at least 2 that school committee members would be attending here. There may be one that has to down in Providence.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I make a motion to nominate Andrew McQuaid as
Okay.
a member of the district strategic planning as a liaison.
I'll second that. Any
The only thing I find problematic about this is not that, but the fact that we legislate strategic planning to, piggyback Craig and Bill. It's really problematic, but more than happy to serve.
Is that a problem?
That was the 20. No, that was the 29. He's just, I know.
Oh,
No, I think it's ridiculous that the
Oh.
state legislates how school districts do their strategic planning. It's
okay.
yeah, it's absurd. And
Yeah, school improvement. Yeah.
I pointed that out.
Yeah.
There's no opportunity for aspirational goal setting.
No.
Yeah, it's absurd.
And finally, the committee's like, well, we just have to do what they say. And if you don't hit the metrics, then you're really prescribed what to do.
That was part of the 2019 legislation.
It's not
Yes.
really. I wish the university would do it that way. It'd be a lot easier. See, you know, something.
So, but happy to serve.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second to appoint or to ask Andrew McQuaid to serve as a liaison on the district strategic planning team. Those in favor?
I have a question.
Sure,
just
sure,
on
sure.
that. So it says liaison.
Yeah.
Would that imply that Andrew or whoever will also have an opportunity on our agenda to bring back the
Yes.
information?
Yes.
So just to give a big picture. So right now we're working in tandem with school improvement planning. So those of you that sit on school improvement plans probably heard, and they reviewed the legislation, talked about the roles. So the schools are going to begin drafting their school improvement plans while we are simultaneously drafting the district strategic plan to meet the criteria in the legislation. One thing I think Gary's talking about is for right now, what RIDE has informed us is per the legislation, if we haven't met our metrics, so for example, if we haven't hit 80% proficiency in science, reading, and mathematics, that must be 3 of the goals. Now, where I believe aspirations come in, for those of us that are going to be glass half full, is the actions that we take and the initiatives that so the wonderful graduation project that you all heard about from the high school administration team and the students, that work is about proficiency across all 3 contents. So that's where really the joy will come, I promise. But it does feel a little sterile at the beginning. I think we were a little bit more optimistic after our first planning meeting last Thursday. We're part of the pilot teams that are working. So we are part of a cohort group where we're being sort of supported, and we have our homework assignments to build it into the system. and then we can bring it back here. And the principal's responsibility will be to bring it to the school improvement team. And in my update, you'll hear about the curriculum town hall. And this is a great opportunity for parents who are specifically interested in, the outcomes of students. The school improvement team is the place to be. That's where, and you don't have to be a voting member. Anyone is welcome to attend. It's just like a meeting like this. It's public comment. The voting members and make the decisions at the end, but they get to hear from the parent and that attend.
So we have a motion and a second. Ms. McQuaid, you accept, right?
Yeah.
Okay, those in favor for Andrew to be on? Thank you. Yeah,
There's one name.
that's one name. Okay. So does anyone like to make a nomination or nominate themselves? Or... Yes, Kathy.
I'll volunteer.
Oh, good.
So moved.
Yes, yes.
Second.
Second, right.
There's been a motion and a second to nominate Catherine Giusti to the district strategic planning as a liaison to the school committee. Any discussion on that? I don't think so. Those in favor? Thank you, Catherine. That's a good team. Yes.
Before we move on,
Yes.
I agree completely with Ryan in terms of waiting, but I also just want to note that I think the policy subcommittee is quite a good idea and want to thank you, Chair, for recommending that. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there,
so
and hopeful that this could be one of the first things that we do as a new committee after the election.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity here because there's a lot of old policies that I think
Absolutely.
if you have a committee, they can review them and make recommendations. I mean, the policies all come back here anyway, so it'd be good to have a school committee team too. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Since we're on school committee subcommittees, I think this is a spot that I need to make make the members aware, and all due respect to the fact that a lot of them are working days when drills are held. But I received an invitation to do 15 drills this year, and I've made all but 3 of them because of previous. But there are a number of people that are on the school safety teams that I haven't seen at any of these drills that have been held, and we've held the lockdown drills, which is required by state law, and a couple of fire drills in most of the buildings. So maybe after this election, we can have some of these committee members determine whether they can attend these functions during the daytime and be part of the school safety teams, because we are very short-handed in observers. We went through today, and Gina, you've been to some of them. We really don't have enough observers to determine whether our drills are going well. I'm not convinced. Well, we could make some other tweaks and improvements if we had more eyes on what's going on around there. So it's just my little spiel on school safety teams.
Thank you, Mr. Day.
Consent.
Yeah. Consent agenda items. You're not going to do it?
What,
Consent, yeah.
I didn't hear you announcing.
Oh, consent agenda items, sir.
A1 and 2.
Thank you. We're going to pull A1 and A2. Any other that we need to be pulled for discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
seeing there's none, before I move the remainder, I would like to acknowledge 2 donations. One, a donation of $227 from First Baptist Church of Charlestown at Quanticochog to Charlestown Elementary School to be used to assist needy students, families with snacks, and students of trimester celebration.
Oh, that's cute.
And, which that is very nice.
Yeah.
And from the Downey Weaver Post Women's Auxiliary Hope Valley of miscellaneous school supplies, children's scissors, glue, notebooks, crayons, markers, pencil sharpeners, construction paper to Hope Valley School. Thank you very much to both organizations.
Both
And
of
at
those
this
are very nice
time,
donations.
I move the remainder.
We had a motion and a second to how do I say that?
Move the remainder of the
Move,
consent agenda.
move the remainder of the consent agenda items. Those in favor? Sorry, lost my. Okay, anybody? No. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
make a
sir.
motion to approve A1 executive session minutes of September 13th, 2022, approval of executive session minutes of August 9th, 2022, minutes not sealed.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the executive session minutes of September 13th, 2022, approval of executive session minutes of August 9th, 2022, minutes not sealed. Any discussion on those minutes? Those in favor? Any nays, recusals, abstentions? No, that's unanimous. Thank you.
I pulled those because there was 3 names.
Yeah, but they can vote.
I know they can. Madam Chair, make a motion to approve A2 regular session minutes of September 13th, 2022.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the regular session minutes of September 13th, 2022. Any discussion or questions on those minutes? I'll take it to a vote. Those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And reports.
So we have subcommittee reports. Special Education Advisory Committee met on September 15th, 2022, and closed are the minutes of the May 19th, 2022 meeting. Health and Wellness Subcommittee will be meeting on October 4th, 2022, here in the library, and closed are the minutes of the meeting held on May 10th, 2022. Upcoming, I'd like to remind you of the Curriculum Town Hall, which we will be hosting next week on Thursday, October 6th, prior to the high school open house and Cala open house in the middle school auditorium. This event will be held from 5 to 5:45. It was announced in our September e-update and at my last 2 school committee reports. It's also going to be mentioned again in our October e-update coming out at the end of this week. And there'll be a phone call reminder that there's an upcoming and a little text message on the day as a reminder. For those that are interested in attending, there's a brief presentation that gives the big picture overview of our current work, as well as our planning for the year ahead. The panel is made up of educators and administrators who support this work in our district. We will share ways parents in the community can become active members of our school improvement teams, our parent association, special education advisory boards, boosters, volunteering, and chaperoning. There will also be an opportunity for the attendees to ask questions about the curriculum work. The presentation and shared information will then be posted on our website under the curriculum tab after the event is held. And then we have some upcoming events on our district calendar. So flu clinics, middle school, Tuesday, October 4th from 4 to 7 p.m. Hope Valley School, Thursday, October 6th from 4 to 7. Ashaway School, Tuesday, October 11th from 4 to 7. Richmond School, Tuesday, October 18th from 4 to 7. High School CTC, Thursday, October 20th from 8 to 10:30. Staff and students only. Charlestown School, Tuesday, November 1st from 4 to 7 p.m. And our upcoming event, September 28th, is High School Picture Day. September 28th is also Richmond School Open House, grades K through 2, 5:30 to 7, as well as Hope Valley School Open House, grades pre-K through 1, 6 to 7:30. On September 29th is Middle School Picture Day. It's also Hope Valley School Open House, grades 2 through 4, 6 to 7:30 p.m. On September 30th is the Middle School Dance, grades 6 to 8, from 6:30 to 8:30. On October 3rd is the Hope Valley PTO meeting in the library, 6:30 to 8. On October 4th is the Ashaway School Open House, all grades 6 to 7:30. On October 5th is the middle school PTO meeting in the library, 7 to 8:30. On October 6th, Ashaway School Picture Day. October 6th, Charahoe Alternative Learning Academy Open House, 5 to 7, as well as the CHS and CTC Open House at 6, along with the Curriculum Town Hall, 5 to 5:45. Secondary progress reports issued on October 7th, Charlestown PTO Parents Night Out, 6:30 to 9:30 on October 7th. And on October 10th, no school students and staff.
Wow, lots going on. Okay, so any school committee requests for future agenda items or legal opinions? Please speak up at this time. Yes, Kathleen.
Put on a future agenda the letter from Hopkinton that they will not be supplying snow removal so that we can have more of a robust conversation about it and maybe see if they want to be present to give us their feedback and we can figure out what the budgetary impact of that will be.
Probably put it on the next one. I'll look right now. Mr. Day.
It's not a request for a future agenda, just probably the only place I thought I could bring it up.
That's okay.
Gina, I know you had a communication to Wesley's son about the lack of unified sports being included in their scheduling. Well, I went on their website, the state website, and there was a scheduled game at Charahoe tomorrow at 3 p.m. And I looked in today's Wesley Sun, and they had only girls tennis and soccer scheduled for Wednesday. So I don't know where the disconnect is down there, but I think it's an insult that they don't get. My understanding is they don't get this information who's playing what at Charahoe from our athletic director. They pick it up off the state Rhode Island Interscholastic League website, and
which is there.
They should be able to put that in there.
I think there's also some confusion because they reported out on the unified game, but they're still not posting the schedule. So we've gotten halfway there.
Well, I buy the Wesley Sun very infrequently because of the fact they don't cover much of Charahoe.
I can send you the link.
Not the school, the whole town, Charahoe towns.
I did see that they did post the unified volleyball game. So not the schedule, but an article. So we're halfway. We'll get there. I'll keep reminding.
You ready?
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to adjourn.
There's been a motion by Mr. Luzon, a second by Mr. Callahan to adjourn. Those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Oh, it's great meeting. It was a good meeting. Conversations good with the budget. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's